Good evening. I declare the agenda briefing forum of the 19th of May 2026 held in Council Chambers at Level 2, 388 Hay Street open at 5:31 p.m. Good evening to you all. On behalf of the City of Subiaco, I acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on, and I recognise their ongoing connection to the local land and waterways. Taking attendances now, Councillor Pine is attending electronically. Councillor Powell is an apology. And I think that means the remaining elected members are here in person. So good evening to you all. We're down one member of the usual executive leadership team, but we've got an acting Director, Development Services, Adam Cousin, and the other executives are as per normal. So good evening to all of you and other staff who are with us also. Okay, disclosure of interest. I saw a late email from Councillor Johnston about a possible disclosure. Did you want to make that this evening? Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen. Yes, I wish to disclose a direct financial interest in item C2. I own one of the properties. Thank you.
Any other disclosures? Doesn't look like it. Okay, there's no approved deputations and I don't need to make any announcements this evening. Let's move on to the agenda items. Starting with C1, draft amended Local Planning Policy 7.1, the Design Review Panel Terms of Reference. Any questions, councillors? C2, Councillor Johnston will ask you to step out. It might not be for a long time, but we'll do it just in case. Okay. Councillors, any questions on C2? Doesn't look like it. If someone could call Councillor Johnston back in, we will get on to C3 in a little while. Okay, C3 is the leasing matter relating to 1 Harborne Street, Subiaco. Do I have any questions on C3? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen. Look, to start with, and I'm always happy to be proven wrong, but how is this staff recommendation on the agenda when we have last month we approved a different form of response to national storage? I won't go into the details of that, but in any circumstances, to bring this back before us, it would be my understanding that we'd need a revocation of the past motion.
It's a fair question considering how we got here. We won't talk about who was right or wrong. I don't think that really matters. We're one council. Director Corporate Services. I take it Mr Guest is on leave at the moment.
He is. He's on leave until tomorrow. So Mr Guest put the council's resolution as of last month in terms of the additional conditions to national storage, and they after some consideration, they declined to accept them. And so given that the council resolution was effectively taken forward in as much as it could have been and the circumstances have now changed, it remains open to council to make a fresh decision in regards to this proposal.
I beg to differ. National Storage did not reject the offer. They said they had a deal and they believe they had a deal that they wished us to honour. They haven't rejected anything. They've just said, we believe, right, that you've made an agreement albeit not legal. They have not stepped into the fact that they have a binding agreement. They've said they believe they have. No, I haven't finished, please. Okay.
Where's the question? You're begging to differ, which is great, but we're not having a debate tonight.
Well,
we're asking questions to better
can't-
understand the agenda.
Just to ask it as a question.
I'm just moving the questions along.
Yes, okay.
Please continue.
The director just stated that National Storage had rejected. They haven't rejected anything, okay? They've said instead they believe they have a deal that they believe we should honour, not legally binding. They use the word honour, okay? That has been agreed to in some format in their minds. There is nothing has happened to stop what is taking place.
Councillor Burns, what would you like staff advice on tonight?
Well, how you possibly deal with this when what you've just said is not the fact. You can't just proceed forward. The council made a decision.
Okay, we're not going to debate the content of the agenda tonight, Councillor Burns. The agenda is set by the CEO. The agenda is what it is. What is it you'd like advice on? If you just want to debate, you should save it to next week.
Explain to me legally how we can discuss this when it has no right to be before us.
Well, it does have a right to be before us.
In my opinion, it doesn't.
That's a question I'm not even going to put to staff. What is it you'd like advice on? Is there anything, or will we move on?
Well, I'll say this. If you're going to move on to discuss this, all right, I'm not going to participate in what, okay, I believe is against the local government.
Okay, councillors, any other questions? Councillor Johnston.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor, will we be having to revoke this previous resolution? Will staff do a revocation of this before the next meeting?
Okay, I don't understand why we're talking about revocations tonight. CEO, we'll hear the governance advice from you, but I would have thought that we've resolved something. We've tried it with the other party. They have, we won't say rejected because that seems to be a source of contention, but we'll say we've got a certain response from the counterparty to these negotiations. It is what it is, and now there's an officer recommendation before us. I mean, what am I missing? Why do we need to revoke anything? CEO. Okay, we're breaking the law, are we, Councillor Burns?
You're breaking Local Government Act.
Okay, if you think we're breaking the law and you want to say that on record, then we might have a problem.
Well, okay, I'll say it on record. I'll come back and put my...
No, we don't need to hear you say that on record.
I'll say it.
Okay, say it on record. Tell us that we've broken the law.
Okay, what is before, I'm leaving the room because what is before us, okay, is in breach of the Local Government Act, and I will therefore not participate in it.
Okay, we'll see you next week, Mark. CEO.
Thank you for the question. And just so you know, I have been tested. I don't have COVID, A and B or RSV. So just for precaution, I have a bit of a cold. So I wasn't able to tell you on the way in. In terms of, there is, as Director of Corporate Services articulated, the council resolution was put to National Storage, and in the information contained in the email back to you, clearly articulated that they said they do not accept the terms. So that resolution has been implemented. Council is now fresh to come back and consider what they've stated, which is what the officer recommendation is. However, council will still be open to that or some other option of that.
Thank you.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Pine.
Yeah, I've got a question on the alternatives. So we've got some options of actually either approving the recommendation from the officer or rejecting it. If we do reject it, what is the path forward if this recommendation was rejected essentially by the councillors next week? What would be the path forward, and what are the risks and opportunities associated with the path forward?
Director of Corporate Services.
Sure, not a problem. So it would, for example, be open to council to put forward different additional terms and attempt to further negotiate by way of council resolution with National Storage. It would be open to council to instruct the CEO to progress to, for example, advertising the property on the open market for lease. It would be open to council to not proceed to advertise the property for lease at this point in time, bearing in mind that the current lease expires in 2027. The business plan that council adopted last year also provided the option for council to consider operating the site as a storage facility themselves, so the city could take that on. Or alternatively, and eventually or immediately, the city could contemplate selling the property, noting that that would require a further business plan. A Section 3.59 business plan is required in order to progress the notion of selling the property. Council needs to advertise it for a period of 6 weeks and consider any submissions made prior to making a decision to progress sale of the property.
Councillor Fife.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. My question is, what month in 2027 is does the lease expire, and what time frame do we need to have a resolution in this matter by, like in terms of a timely, clear pathway forward for national storage in the city? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? What's the scope? Does that make sense?
Director Corporate Services.
The lease expires on 28th of February 2027. So in some sense, there is time to negotiate with National Storage. On the other hand, in order for the property not to be at risk of lying dormant, it would also be prudent to consider launching an open leasing campaign in the case that the lease with National Storage should not proceed if council chooses to take more time.
CEO.
Just to add to the risk, a couple of things in terms of that. There is a deposit that you've been advised through the email that has been received. In addition to that, there would be risk associated with the uncertainty of the people that have the storage units in terms of either running it ourselves or some other type of operation. And so it may well be that the 85% storage capacity, I think that's at the moment, come early 2027, is not at that same state. So there would be financial risk associated with a different model as well.
Sure, I'm not proposing a different model. What I'm proposing, or what I'm asking about, I guess, is there time for us to have potentially a workshop that was requested by a few members at the time when this was brought up through an EMIB to get the heat out of the debate and to have some clarification about where we might move forward, because there seems to be, no, I'll leave it at that because I don't want to debate it. I'll just ask that question. Is there time to have a workshop on this matter prior to doing a deal with National Storage?
Just so we're clear, there's legal timeframes and there's commercial ones. The legal timeframes I would have thought pertain to the time by which the tenant must give notice, and that's notice exercising the option to renew. There's no option. Okay. So it's not about legal timeframes per se, it's about commercial negotiations and all the discussions that have happened up to this point. I mean, there's two executives who have a view on the time or lack thereof to have a workshop at this point. CEO, we'll start with you. If you wanted to get Director Corporate Services to supplement, please do, but I think you're across this matter.
Yeah, just to clarify, we did ask on several occasions relating to whether or not there could be workshops in the past. You still can have them. You would have to defer the motion. You may wish to consider the risk that may provide to National Storage in terms of what they seek. like in terms of they would have the same principles relating to whether or not there's confidence in those tenants to remain there or shift somewhere else. So there might be risk on that side. And probably the other risk that I didn't mention was in terms of this proposal also releases the existing holder in terms of the making good clause as well. And that shifts it to this. So there would be also the risk associated with the make good clause should this not proceed as well, which is valued at about 1.7 million. So there are some sizable risks in relation to delay in terms of that commercial relationship in terms of the offer and acceptance and the time frame by which somebody else consider or National Storage consider that's appropriate. So anything else you think? No?
Thanks, CEO. Conscious that workshops aren't the only way that elected members engage between formal council meetings. You mentioned the EMIB earlier. Was this mentioned in an EMIB? Which EMIB?
Yeah, if I could through the chair. The EMIB that was issued on Thursday, once again, had a good summary of the information and provided some confidential information. There's been around 6 or 7 EMIBs through this time. Goes back to April 2024 when this first started at a strategic workshop. So there is quite a bit of time and a number of also strategic workshop mentioned in February as well, 2026. So there has been a number of EMIBs and workshops that have been undertaken through this time.
No, I think that answers it. Thanks, CEO. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, I think we can move on to C4, the financial statements and reports for the month ending 30 April 2026. Any questions on C4? Okay, I don't think there's going to be any questions on C4. I can't think of any confidential items there'll be next week, so we may not even have a discussion about confidential items after the briefing. But that's the end of the agenda for next week as it currently stands, so I therefore declare the agenda briefing forum closed at 5:48 p.m. Thank you, councillors, staff and the media.